Today I'm going to reveal the one phrase that disarms any woman's ego. Many men don't realize that the right words can instantly dissolve female resistance and create genuine connection. In fact, this psychological technique completely transforms your interactions. In the next few minutes, I'll explain the paradox of female resistance and present the exact three-part formula that simultaneously activates understanding, validation, and curiosity. This approach works because it bypasses defenses instead of attacking them directly. What I'm about to share isn't manipulative tricks or artificial pickup tactics. These are deep psychological principles based on an authentic understanding of female nature. And contrary to what many experts teach, true seduction doesn't start with what you say, but with who you are. Real transformation happens from the inside out. Before revealing these four principles, let me ask, how many times have you approached a woman feeling that mix of hope and anxiety, only to see her interest evaporate in the first few minutes? That familiar feeling of rejection that cuts like a knife. This happens because you're making fundamental mistakes that are sabotaging your chances before you even start. The good news? These mistakes are completely avoidable when you understand the psychology behind them, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you today. If this content is already making sense to you, hit that like button right now. This small gesture helps me reach more men who, like you, are looking to transform their love lives. Let's get to the first principle. First, the law of emotional contrast. The biggest mistake 89% of men make is trying too hard to please, being overly available, and showing obvious interest right away. This instantly triggers the female neediness detector. When you act like you need her validation, your perceived value immediately plummets. Think about the last time a woman seemed interested and suddenly became cold and distant. Did you feel that moment? That's exactly when you showed emotional neediness, when your energy communicated that you needed her more than she needed you. In that instant, all the magnetism was lost. The law of emotional contrast works in the opposite way. Instead of pursuing, you create a vacuum that naturally pulls her towards you. It's like emotional gravity. The more centered and complete you are within yourself, the stronger the attraction you generate. Women are naturally attracted to men who represent emotional stability in a chaotic world. When you manifest this stability, you become the eye of the hurricane, calm, centered, unshakable. She senses this instinctively, even before you say a single word. Imagine walking into any social setting with this grounded presence. No anxiety, no trying to prove your worth, just fully existing in your own power. This quality is magnetic because it's extremely rare. Most men are constantly trying to impress, win approval, or external validation. When you don't need that, you immediately stand out. How do you cultivate this in practice? Start by eliminating behaviors that signal neediness. Stop replying to texts instantly. Stop agreeing with everything she says. Stop canceling your plans to fit her schedule. Small behavioral changes communicate big internal shifts. Also, develop your life independent of her. Have hobbies, friends, projects, and passions that don't depend on her presence or approval. When she sees that you have a rich world she doesn't have guaranteed access to, the desire to enter that world grows naturally. Psychologist John Smith calls this the principle of scarcity. We value what we perceive as limited or potentially inaccessible more. When your attention and approval aren't guaranteed, but must be earned, they automatically become more valuable. And here's the crucial part. This doesn't mean being indifferent or emotionally distant. The contrast comes precisely from the ability to alternate between moments of intense connection and secure independence. When you're together, be completely present, listen deeply, connect genuinely, share moments of emotional intensity. Then naturally return to your center, your independent life. This oscillation, closeness and space, warmth and independence, creates a dynamic tension that is fundamentally attractive. It's like a dance where sometimes you move closer and sometimes you pull back, creating a rhythm that keeps interest and desire alive. Most men get stuck at one extreme or the other. They're either completely distant and inaccessible, or they're overly available and suffocating. The secret lies in the fluid alternation between these states, always maintaining your emotional center. If you're following along and recognizing the mistakes you've been making, don't worry. Awareness is the first step to change. With consistent practice, this new way of being becomes natural and automatic. Over the next 21 days, challenge yourself to implement small, consistent changes in this direction. Observe how women's reactions around you begin to shift. And here's a truth few have the courage to say: sometimes you'll need to willingly lose short-term opportunities to build your long-term power of attraction. It might mean letting a woman walk away when she tests your boundaries. It might mean saying no to a date when you have important personal commitments. These small decisions of immediate sacrifice build your character and, consequently, your magnetism. Do you feel the depth of this? This isn't just a superficial technique. It's a complete reformulation of how you position yourself in the world. And when women sense this change, the transformation in their reactions will be undeniable. Second, the persistent curiosity trigger. The female brain is wired to seek meaning and solve emotional puzzles. When you become an enigma, not through manipulative games but through genuine internal depth, you activate one of the most powerful behavioral motivators: unsatisfied curiosity. Neuroscientists have discovered that curiosity activates the same reward centers in the brain as food and sex. When something piques our curiosity and remains partially unresolved, our brain becomes obsessed with it. That's why TV series with cliffhanger endings are so addictive. That's why stories with unexpected twists stick in our memory. And that's exactly how you should structure your presence in her life, not as an open book that reveals everything at once, but as a fascinating story that unfolds gradually, always maintaining an element of mystery and discovery. How do you do this in practice? Through what I call the partial revelation technique. Instead of sharing everything about yourself at once, reveal intriguing aspects of your personality, experiences, and thoughts in progressive layers. Each new layer revealed creates momentary satisfaction and simultaneously sparks curiosity about what's yet to be discovered. Think of it this way. Every interaction should leave her thinking about you after you part ways. Every conversation should have at least one moment that echoes in her mind hours later. This could be a surprising personal story told halfway, an intriguing worldview that challenges her assumptions, or simply a perceptive observation that shows you see beyond the surface. Have you ever had that feeling of thinking about someone after a brief encounter, of feeling like there's so much more to discover? That's exactly what you want to create in her mind. And contrary to what many believe, this doesn't come from manipulative tactics or fake displays of status. It comes from the authentic complexity that every real man possesses when he allows himself to be genuine, yet strategic in how he reveals that genuineness. Look, women are natural bullshit detectors. They can sense when a man is trying to project a fabricated image. But when you have true substance and reveal that substance gradually, naturally, you create a curiosity that is irresistible because it's authentic. In practical terms, practice what I call the 80-20 technique. Share 80% of an intriguing story or thought, leaving 20% undisclosed. When she asks questions to find out more, smile and say, "That's a story for another time," or "There's more to that than I can explain right now." This small emotional hook keeps her mind focused on you long after the conversation ends. Another crucial aspect of this principle is positive unpredictability. Routine and predictability are killers of desire. When she can predict exactly how you'll react, what you'll say, or how you'll behave in any situation, natural interest wanes. The human brain doesn't expend energy processing what it already knows completely. Create moments of positive surprise. This doesn't mean erratic or confusing behavior, but surprising variation within a consistent character. One moment you're contemplative and deep, then you're joyful and light. One day you take her on a spontaneous adventure. The next you propose a deep conversation about life. This variety within stability is incredibly attractive, and an essential element for keeping this curiosity alive is never being completely won over. Even in established relationships, keep parts of your life, thoughts, and ambitions that continue evolving independently of her. A woman wants a complete man, not a man who became complete with her. The feeling that there's still more to discover and conquer, even after years together, keeps the flame of desire burning. Practice this in your next interactions. Instead of presenting yourself as a finished product, be an expanding universe she's invited to continuously explore. This is the kind of presence that keeps a woman awake at night, thinking about you, even after years of being together. If this content is making you rethink your previous approaches, leave a comment below sharing which insight has impacted you the most so far. Your participation not only helps me create more relevant content, but also helps other men who are on the same journey. Let's continue. Third, the magnetic leadership equation. Male attractiveness is intrinsically linked to the ability to lead, not through domination, but through clear direction and defined purpose. What many men don't realize is that the leadership that attracts women isn't about control, but about vision. When I talk about leadership, I'm not talking about the guy who needs to boss everyone around or impose his opinions. I'm talking about the man who knows where he's going in life and invites the woman on a meaningful journey alongside him. This is a different kind of power. It's not power over her, but power shared with her. Let's examine how this manifests in daily interactions. When you meet a woman, she's constantly evaluating, consciously and unconsciously, whether you're capable of navigating the world with confidence. She observes how you make decisions, how you handle obstacles, how you respond to complex social situations. Most men fail here in two ways. They either try to impress by being overly dominant, which drives away quality women, or they completely abdicate any leadership, expecting her to make all the decisions, which generates disrespect and disinterest. Magnetic leadership occupies the powerful middle ground. It's the ability to take responsibility without being controlling, to have a vision without being inflexible, to be decisive without ignoring her input. Think of a simple example like planning a date. The man with magnetic leadership doesn't vaguely ask, "What do you want to do?" putting the entire burden of decision on her. Nor does he rigidly impose, "We're doing X, no discussion." Instead, he confidently proposes, "I found this amazing place I think you'll love. Are you free Thursday night?" If she has a counter-proposal, he adapts without losing his posture. This simple dynamic communicates a lot. It shows you have initiative, that you thought of her specifically. It's not a generic plan you'd do with anyone, and that you have the confidence to lead but the intelligence to collaborate. On a deeper level, magnetic leadership derives from having a clear purpose in life. Women are naturally attracted to men who are going somewhere meaningful, pursuing goals bigger than themselves. When you have a clear mission, you become a boat sailing with purpose in an ocean of drifting men. It's no coincidence that women often fall for men they observe pursuing their passions with excellence and focus, whether they are musicians playing, athletes competing, or professionals completely absorbed in their creative work. There's something deeply attractive about a man who is fully present and mastering something that matters to him. Cultivate this quality by developing clarity about your values and life direction. What are your non-negotiable principles? Where do you want to be in 5 years? What contribution do you want to make to the world? The more clarity you have internally, the more magnetism you project externally. Magnetic leadership also manifests in the ability to set healthy boundaries. Women test boundaries not out of malice, but from a deep instinct to evaluate your character. When you maintain your standards and boundaries calmly and firmly, without aggression or insecurity, you demonstrate the kind of stability that allows her to feel safe and feminine by your side. This is a crucial point. True femininity flourishes in the presence of authentic masculinity. When you embody qualities like direction, protection, decisiveness, and purpose, you create the space for her to access her most feminine aspects: receptivity, fluidity, intuition, and surrender. This polarity created by your magnetic leadership is the heart of deep attraction. In practice, exercise your magnetic leadership by starting with small decisions, planning dates, solving problems as they arise, taking initiative in conversations, proposing next steps in the relationship's development. These small actions build a pattern that communicates your fundamental nature. And remember, true leadership isn't about having all the answers or never showing vulnerability. It's about taking responsibility for your path and the space you share with her. It's about being the kind of man others want to follow, not because they are forced, but because they are inspired. Over the next 30 days, Challenge yourself to take more initiative in all areas of your life. Observe how this consistent behavior begins to alter how women respond to you. The transformation may be subtle at first, but it will become unmistakable over time. What I'm proposing isn't a temporary technique, but a fundamental shift in how you position yourself in the world. And this change affects not only your success with women, but all areas of your life: career, friendships, health, and purpose. If you're enjoying this content that goes far beyond the superficial tips you see out there, hit that like button now and share it with a friend who also needs this guidance. Together, we can raise the level of how men relate to women. Let's move on to the fourth principle. Fourth, the paradox of strategic vulnerability. Here we arrive at the most powerful and least understood principle of male attraction. Vulnerability, when applied correctly, doesn't diminish your power as a man. It dramatically amplifies it. There's a widespread belief that showing any form of vulnerability is a sign of weakness. This is a deeply flawed understanding that prevents countless men from creating genuine and lasting connections. True male vulnerability isn't about emotionally breaking down, crying without reason, or sharing every insecurity. It's about the strength to be authentic in a world that encourages masks. It's about the courage to show selected parts of your true self, even when there's a risk of rejection. When a man who clearly possesses inner strength deliberately chooses to show vulnerable aspects of himself, it doesn't communicate weakness. It communicates unshakable self-confidence. It says, "I am so secure in my masculinity that I don't need to pretend to be perfect." Psychological research confirms this. Strategically practiced vulnerability creates what researchers call the disclosure effect. When you share something genuinely personal at an appropriate moment, the person listening feels simultaneously honored by the trust and more connected to you. The keyword here is strategic. Vulnerability without discernment is just emotional recklessness. Strategic vulnerability involves understanding what, when, how, and with whom to share. Apply this using what I call the strength-struggle-overcoming framework. First, establish your competence and strength in a particular area. Then share a genuine challenge you faced in that domain. Finally, reveal how you worked or are working to overcome that challenge. For example, instead of simply saying you have a successful business, strength without vulnerability, or lamenting all your business failures, vulnerability without strength, you could share, "I built my company from the ground up and today we have 15 employees, but there was a time in the second year when we almost lost everything. I woke up for weeks at 4 a.m. with paralyzing anxiety, questioning all my decisions. What helped me get through it was going back to the fundamental principles and rebuilding with more wisdom." This approach creates a powerful narrative that demonstrates competence, humanizes you through the struggle, and inspires through resilience. The combination is magnetically attractive because it's so rare. Men usually get stuck in just showing strength or just sharing weaknesses. Another critical aspect of strategic vulnerability is timing. Revealing too much too soon creates a feeling of emotional invasion and discomfort. It's like skipping straight to the end of a movie. You lose the entire journey that creates emotional investment. Vulnerability should be gradual, increasing, in depth as trust and connection grow. In the early stages, keep the revelations light but genuine. As the relationship develops, you can share deeper layers at appropriate moments. The third component is delivery. Vulnerability shared with shame or insecurity loses its power. When you share something personal, do so with the same confidence you discuss any other topic. No excuses, no self-deprecation, just straightforward honesty. This form of male vulnerability creates a fascinating paradoxical effect. Instead of lowering your status in her eyes, it elevates it. She thinks, if he can show this part of himself with such confidence, imagine the inner strength he must possess. And here's the hidden magic. Strategic vulnerability not only creates attraction, but eliminates the exhausting need to maintain perfect facades. The freedom to be authentically you, with your strengths, flaws, and all, within a strategic framework is incredibly powerful. How do you implement this in practice? Start by identifying aspects of your life where you've faced genuine challenges and overcome them, or are overcoming them. Prepare these stories beforehand, not as scripts, but as experiences you're comfortable sharing when the right moment arises. Practice sharing versions of these experiences with different levels of depth. Have lighter versions for recent acquaintances and deeper versions for developing connections. Observe reactions carefully. You'll notice an interesting pattern. After a moment of well-executed strategic vulnerability, women often reciprocate with their own revelations, deepening the connection and creating genuine intimacy. It's important to emphasize that strategic vulnerability isn't a manipulative tactic to extract revelations from her. It's an authentic practice of selective sharing that allows for real connections while maintaining healthy boundaries. Over the next 30 days, challenge yourself to incorporate moments of strategic vulnerability into your interactions. Start with small revelations and observe how they transform the quality of your connections. With practice, you'll find the ideal balance between strength and openness that resonates specifically with the women you're most attracted to. Are you noticing how these principles intertwine, how each amplifies the other? Emotional contrast creates space to awaken persistent curiosity. Magnetic leadership creates the secure foundation for strategic vulnerability. Together, they form an integrated system that radically transforms how you are perceived and received by the opposite sex. If you've followed along this far and see the value of this content, subscribe to the channel now and hit the notification bell. In the next video, I'll reveal the 5 specific contexts where these principles should be applied differently, from the first date to long-term relationships. Don't miss it. Before we conclude, I need to emphasize something crucial. What I've shared today aren't just techniques for attracting women. They are principles for becoming a better, more complete, more authentic man. The fascinating paradox is that when you focus on your own evolution, female attraction comes as a natural consequence, not as the primary goal. Many men invert this equation. They make attracting women the main objective and get lost in superficial techniques, memorize scripts, and short-term manipulations that might work momentarily but never create lasting satisfaction. The principles I've shared are different. They require real internal work, character development, emotional integrity, genuine purpose. There are no shortcuts here, but there's also no ceiling to the growth you can experience. And the beauty of it. When you operate from these principles, you not only become more attractive to quality women, but more respected by other men, more effective in your career, more connected with yourself. You become the kind of man who makes a positive difference in all the lives he touches. Let's quickly recap the 4 principles. First, the law of emotional contrast, becoming the emotional eye of the hurricane, alternating between intense connection and secure independence. Second, the persistent curiosity trigger, revealing yourself in layers that continuously spark interest and emotional investment. Third, the magnetic leadership equation, creating direction and purpose that allow her to feel safe in her femininity by your side. Fourth, the paradox of strategic vulnerability, using selective vulnerability to demonstrate unshakable inner strength and create authentic connection. These principles don't work in isolation. They form an integrated system, each amplifying the power of the others. And while no man applies them perfectly every day, consistent commitment to them creates a transformation that goes far beyond what you imagine is possible now. If this content resonated with you, leave a comment below sharing which principle impacted you the most and why. I will personally respond to the most insightful and sincere comments. And if you know men who are struggling with these aspects of life, share this video with them. Sometimes, the right information at the right time can literally change a life. See you in the next video, where we'll delve into how to adapt these principles to different relationship contexts. Until then, start applying what you learned today. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Take that step now.